Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Thursday, January 20th, 2022, and it is Thankful Thursdays. So while you're saying good morning, and as you all often do, go off into your own conversations with other Java fam members, put in the comments one word why you were thankful this morning. I have a guest this morning. I am thankful for her. I've known her for years. She is no stranger to the Java Cafe. She's been here before. She was scheduled a few weeks ago, but due to the tragedy of Sherelle Pringle and her advocacy, closeness to the community, and the work with that, we had to reschedule State Representative Elizabeth Liz Miranda. And so she's with us. Let me take a sip of my coffee. I can't talk this morning. She is with us this morning, and I'm going to bring her in and get ready to check in with her as this wonderful Black woman who has made the decision to enhance and increase her voice in the community. State Representative Elizabeth Miranda, welcome back into the Java Cafe. Good to see you this morning. And say hello to folks. And you know how we do. We'll check in and see how you're doing, but greet the folks, say hello, and then we'll check in on you with all due respect. As you know, we know you're the rep, but we want to check in with you as Liz before we get into the business. How you doing?
Good morning, everyone. I'm actually doing good. I had a really good start to the new year. I know we're 3 weeks in and I have a little cold, no COVID, but definitely I'm happy to be here and happy that we were able to reschedule.
I definitely appreciate you being here, and folks are saying good morning to you as well. And so, you said you're feeling a little bit under the weather, but I want to check in with you also about how you're doing. Java with Jimmy curates a mental health self-care space, and we do that with all of our guests. But as a Black woman in this time, as some recent things that our Black women are being targeted and all the other things that are going on in the work you're doing, how are you as Liz doing today?
So I've learned a couple of things, particularly, I turned 40 about a year ago, and going through some things that I think are really important to share around. I've learned that grief is not a finite thing.
Yes.
And neither is healing. And when you do radical self-care, as I'm learning to take better care of myself, create more boundaries, address internal things like most of us have gone through our whole lives, I've learned that you can still be vulnerable and powerful,
Yep.
that you can still be flawed and valuable, and that I stopped looking to get healed by like a date, or I stopped looking at ending my sadness. A lot of us have been traumatized throughout our whole lives through different instances. As a woman who has been in intimate partner violence before, who's been a victim of abuse, I've been triggered a lot. In the last particular year. You mentioned the case of Deja, a young woman who had her life ahead of her, Sherelle Pringle, but those are two out of so many Black women in leadership positions and not in our community that are not protected and taken care of. So I want to say that I'm good. I created this thing called the Care Corps, which is a group of people around me that are helping me not only with my beyond massages and
yes,
taking bubble baths. It's like, my spiritual health. I rejoined Morning Star Church. I think Bishop Borders is amazing. I have my financial advisor a part of that, because finances sometimes take a hit when you're dealing with stuff. You know what I mean? I have people handling my wardrobe or my gym or physical care. And so I really feel good that I've had a chance to really center on myself and emotional care.
I appreciate that. And one of the reasons that you have to center yourself on that care is because you're sort of not sort of, but you're selfless. You give and you give and you give. And I appreciate the point of you taking care of yourself. And you've also been very open about the importance in community and our own trauma. And I think it makes you a better, unfortunately, you've been through it, and you and I, we've talked about it. We've
Yes.
shared some intimate situations with your brother, my nephew. And so you talk about communal trauma as well. And so I thank you for naming that for yourself, but you also look out for us. So it's much appreciated. You've done a lot of advocacy in the community. I know you from going way back when you were, I believe, at Grant Makers. You were working with the BMA, and we had the teen cafes back in the day. And so for those that don't know, just give us a couple of minutes about your work in the community. You're a current state rep. For those of you that don't know and are tuning in now, State Representative Miranda is also now running to be state senator. And so we want to make sure that you, for those of you that don't know who she is, have an understanding of who she is and her work in the community. So, Rep, please tell us a little bit about what you've done in the community, and then we'll go into why you're running and some policies.
You know, first and foremost, being of this community and for this community, I started my career when I was like 13 years old. So I was in phenomenal youth programs. Although my family life and my community life was a little hectic, I had Orchard Park Teen Center. Shout out to Chris Bino and Terrence for that. I had My Town, Denise and Carolyn. I had DS&I, Nubian Roots Youth Group. I had John and Carlene Dorsina and John Barrows and a bunch of people that helped me along with teen empowerment. You know, I was a TE kid in the late 90s, and all those organizations taught me a lot about youth work, youth voice, youth power, and community power. And so I really had a 20-year history of youth work. You talk about philanthropy. I worked at the Boston Foundation, the Black Ministerial Alliance, the Youth Workers Alliance, and really honed in on the fact that even though I was a part-time entrepreneur, my heart and my work and my deeds were focused on the fact that there were young people like me still in my community looking to know that it would be okay. You know, you talked about my history in terms of being from this community, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that I've been dedicated and always turned talk into action. So
Yes.
people that do know me as a rep know that I've been in this seat for 3 years. I've had a phenomenal experience. You know, I was legislator of the year, progressive legislator of the year, woman of the year. I was did Wellesley's commencement speech.
Yep,
You know,
that I saw. Yep.
who would think like a first generation Black immigrant person who goes to college when their mother dropped out of high school could go to an institution and then 20 years later stand on the same stage as Maya Angelou. So I had all of this stuff that I worked on, and I took that to the State House. You know, I was really intentional about showing people that people like me are worthy enough and belong,
That's right.
that we can contribute, and that people in our community deserved more and better. And I think the pivotal point in my life and why I believe that I am going to be the next senator of the Second Suffolk District, which has been my lifelong home, is that people want to see people in positions of power that never forget where they came from, that never forget who they come from. And the important piece is, like, I've worked on gun violence prevention. You know, I'm so happy that I was able to get $50 million out of the ARPA money that we just got for gun violence prevention. And I also have a bill on a gun violence audit. And this is something you have talked about for years.
You see me, I'm like, wait, a gun violence audit? What? Come on. Sorry.
The reason why is we know that we spend over $1 billion in public safety a year in Massachusetts, yet we spend less than like 30 million on gun violence prevention. And it goes through Shannon, it goes through SSYI, it goes through special pockets. but we really don't know if it's making an impact. And the reason why I care about making an impact is that as a former youth worker, as someone, you know, a lot of people hear me talk about my brother dying in 2017, but my brother wasn't the only, he wasn't the first. And I realized through that, I was like, wait a minute, like we're in Massachusetts. What are we doing? Why is this still happening in communities like Brockton and Lawrence and Springfield and Boston? And the Fifth Suffolk, which I now have the honor to be the rep, is the fourth most dangerous place in the Commonwealth, only behind Boston, Springfield, and Brockton as cities. So you have a neighborhood that's beautiful, that's resilient, that's powerful, that's diverse, and yet it's still struggling. And I believe it's because the money that is meant to go into communities, to grassroots organizations, to people who have had lived experience like myself and you, doesn't get there. And it doesn't get there because we have a value on law enforcement, but we don't have a value on creating opportunity and giving organizations on the ground. And the honest truth, you know, I know a lot of people, and I want to shout out the trauma team, the Boston trauma team, including my best friend Mo and all those women, Isa, Katia, Yesenia.
If I can chime in, I saw them in action when you speak of Sherelle Pringle's memorial. I saw Mo, the team, Donald, Meeks, and a few other ones that really, Tara, you get in naming names.
Tara. Tara Register.
Yes, yeah, we call them by their Facebook name. Lord have mercy. But yeah, I have to chime in on that because I told Dr. Basola that, and you know, as you mentioned the work, to see what I used to fuss about, that team is from the We Need to Know meetings 4 years ago that you helped support and came. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just had to give them, because I'll fuss, but we also need to give kudos when kudos are due.
Because I want to shout those people, because those frontline workers and essential workers don't get the love they deserve. Also, the small grassroots organizations that are working day in and day out, they have a lot of pressure on them, stress on them, but they also don't get resourced the same way. And so the audit bill and the $50 million, I hope, one, figures out how we're spending our money, checking in on that and changing the way and pivoting how we do that, but also putting more money in the communities that are struggling. So I'm looking forward to that. I've gotten millions of dollars along with the Black and Latino Caucus in this year's bill for small businesses. You know, when I was sent to the State House, I was sent to pass laws, and I did that. I worked a lot on police accountability, environmental justice, the issue of birth injustice. I don't even have children, but I've seen so many women in my life suffer fibroids, endometriosis, pregnancy and infant loss, fertility, thinking about abortion or other issues of reproductive justice in our community, that we are silent. We don't get looked to. Black women do not have the access, and we don't have the room to share that we're not being listened to. There's medical racism that's causing Black women to die 2 times the rate in Massachusetts. So I'm proud that I not only got resources for my community in those states, because the monies that I got for small businesses and gun violence, all that stuff is going to impact the entire state, but that I was also able to work on issues and elevate issues and champion causes like gun violence and mass incarceration. You know, I'd love to talk about that further some other time, but we're tied with Louisiana with the number of people serving life without parole. And a lot of people ask me, how could you want to end life without parole in Massachusetts when your brother was killed? And I said, because it's a racial justice issue. If Massachusetts is sending Black men in particular to jail 8 times the rate of white men, and the same goes for Black women, there's a problem there. We over sentence people to jail to die, yet we say we're a liberal community, you know?
So with all that you've named there, that you've done as a state rep, can you educate and inform while telling us through that education, you're moving to wanting to represent as a state senator? The difference between, you know, being a state representative and a state senator. So mix in a little bit of education and why you're doing that.
So the first thing I'm going to say is because I'm ready. I've not only experienced a lived experience that is complementary to what is happening in our community. This new Senate seat, the Second Suffolk seat, I just want to share a little bit. There are 200 people at Beacon Hill. There's 160 state reps, which I am, and there's 40 senators. Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, who represented this community for the last 11 years, is running for governor. And I think she was on your show earlier this week, right? Yep. So she's running for governor. She's being a big champion, particularly around school reform and education reform, helping to pass the Student Opportunity Act. And redistricting and the census happened last year. So the census told Massachusetts and the country where people live, and in particular where there are Black districts. So the 5th Suffolk became the 3rd Black seat in the city of Boston. The other 2 Black seats are represented by Rep. Holmes and Rep. Fluker Oakley. The seat that was occupied by Senator Sonia Chang Diaz had a lot of the South End, had a lot of Jamaica Plain, but that has transitioned to be more of a Blue Hill Ave seat. Why is that important? Because I believe that this is a Black seat for a Black person to win, not only to be the representative and senator of the 2nd Suffolk, but essentially join now Senator-elect Lydia Edwards in the State House, where there hasn't been Black women or Black men for a very long time. And I not only feel that I'm ready and experienced and that I've delivered as a rep, but these 20 years that I've contributed to my community, block by block, people to people, neighborhood to neighborhood, I feel like has made a huge difference. And the issues that I work on today, the issues that I've worked on as a youth worker, as a philanthropist, as a community woman, because I'm a real woman from a real community. That's one of the things that I want to share, is that people don't want to elect people that are just go to the State House and wear suits and pins and talk about policy change without actually delivering something. You know, the issues around environmental justice, people say all the time, well, that isn't a Black issue. What it is. Reproductive issue is a Black issue. You want to know why environmental justice is important and why I worked on it my first term? I grew up in a community that had 1,400 parcels of vacant land. The land was polluted. The water was polluted. We had illegal trash stations. We still have one. We have 5 times the asthma rate. We also in Roxbury, died 33 years ahead of white people from the Back Bay. When COVID came, we know who hurt by COVID. We know who died. I lost my grandmother during COVID. A lot of people lost loved ones. There was this recent report that there are 160,000 children in America today that lost their primary caregiver during COVID. So the issues that I've worked on 15, 20 years, the issues I've worked in the last 3 years, and I think folks, to the point that I have to share something that was really important. When my brother died, it was a different type of hurt. It wasn't because I was super close with my brother. I didn't hang out with my brother. Like I said, he wasn't the first or last person. But what it made me realize was at the State House, Massachusetts was applauding itself, that it had the lowest number of gun deaths, had the toughest gun laws in America. Yet in all of our communities, the of color communities, whether it was 10, 20, 30, or 40, 50, or 70 people who had died at the hands of penetrating trauma, we were faced with that. We were in pain, and every time that an adult or a young person or a girl or a woman or a child gets killed in our community, it's felt by hundreds of people. We're re-traumatized. We are refacing PTSD. And guess what? The medical health care and the mental health supports and the trauma supports are not there that we need to be able to help us get through that. And so I would just say to the people that are listening, that is wondering like where the Second Suffolk seat is, it's down Blue Hill Ave. It's down, to Mattapan, includes Hyde Park, includes parts of JP, like Mission Hill, which is Roxbury and JP. It's Jackson Square and a little bit of the Fenway. And I want to share something about being a proud woman from a Black immigrant family. Over the last year that I've been harassed, I've also been called into question about the spaces where I haven't shown up as my best self. And I just want to share that I am incredibly apologetic that, 10 to 12 years ago, I spoke away with hood vernacular in my community that I didn't understand.
I just name, as we all have done and do, but go ahead.
I've used hood vernacular because I was comfortable with it and I didn't understand the consequences. And so I really want to apologize and take the time for my Black elders, for my Black trans community. A lot of people know who I am and who I've been. And I've brought the queer community, I brought the Black community, the immigrant community, the recently incarcerated or currently incarcerated community all to the State House, not just now, but then. And so I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that because it's real. As a person who's been victimized in the past, all of this stuff that I've gone through this year has helped me grow, and I've risen from it. And I want to continue to rise together with my community. Black people in our communities, and James, you've talked about this too. The queer community is here. It is our people, it's our brothers, it's our sisters, it's our friends, it's us. And we don't often talk about the pain that Black differently abled people and Black trans people, especially trans women who aren't protected, who are dying at an alarming rate across this country, feel that they deserve more from our community because we can't cancel. And I'll leave here. This idea of cancel culture is not a Black thing. The dominant culture has infiltrated through their systemic and structural racism that this idea of like, when you do something wrong, that you have to be canceled. None of us are our worst mistake. None of us are the worst day of our lives. None of us are the worst thing we've ever done or that has been done to us. And so it's an important message to share with people that we're all learning and growing together. But I wanted to apologize for the harm because even 10 to 12 years ago, and it makes me emotional because I've always been with this community. I've always loved this community. My nephews are in this community. My friends are in this community. Although I'm not queer, my entire team. And that's right, they won't cancel themselves and they shouldn't. And, I read a book and I just want to share it in the group. There's a new book by Adrienne Marie Brown said, "We Will Not Cancel Us." And it talks about the movement work and transformative justice, how we need to show up to change our institutions and ourselves to be able to further the work.
Can you do me a favor while I talk for a second? Can you type the name of the book and the author in the private chat, and I'll copy and paste it so people can see it and be available. Or if the team is on, they can put it in the comments as well. And so I want to back up for a few things. One thing I'll kind of go backwards is, and I say this with all due respect because we are friends, Liz, thank you. And I'm trying not to get a little emotional because I'm not an advocate, in this space, but thanks to people who like Quincy who are on and Curtis Santos and others. Thank you for acknowledging and apologizing. Because we're friends, I'm aware and know that, between hacking and some other stuff, but what you just did was whether you didn't care about all the details of whatever. You knew that there was potential, that there could have been harm caused by something that was tweeted or whatever. And so I have to acknowledge and say thank you because it does lend to why I call you a friend beyond the work. That's a character and integrity thing. People can say and do whatever, but I appreciate, because if you didn't, folks would talk. So just as much as y'all promoted that other crap in tweets, y'all need to share the fact that she apologized and acknowledged. And so thank you, Liz, for that, representative, for that.
I want to also put a thing about that. I'm a real woman from a real community, and I am one of us, right? And so when I shared that point about being flawed, I just wanted folks to know that you could be flawed and still valuable, and that you could be vulnerable and still powerful. That the idea of me being authentic or transparent is not to hide. I've never hidden from anything. I think I've overshared over the last 10 to 12 years.
Something like that to you before, but go ahead.
I've overshared, and that's been part of my healing and growth, that I'm not perfect.
That's right.
That that when people elect people, they shouldn't be electing people because we think they're perfect or holier than thou.
That's right.
We're electing people to be vehicles and messengers to get to the goal of a shared humanity. We want to have justice and we want to stop waiting. You know, we want to be able to have Blue Hill Ave not look the way that it looks. We want to be able for our kids to not die and for us not to be afraid as mothers or sisters or aunties that when a Black man walks out of our door, that they're in harm's way by government, by law enforcement, by the church, by society. And so that message about not canceling us is important because we have a lot of work to do together and everyone can contribute. Everyone can bring something to the table. I am not a person who is asking people to vote for me to be the next senator of the Second Suffolk because of all the stuff on paper. I'm asking that of my people, of my community, because I know that I can continue to deliver. And I know because I understand. I know what it's like to be from here.
I'm gonna push back on one point.
Okay.
And lived experience, I appreciate that. But when you said, you know, not, I don't know if you said not just the stuff, but
Not just the stuff on paper.
okay, because on paper counts. You know, policy impacts people, and so we appreciate the lived experience that's went to inform what you put on paper. There was one time I wanted to go and make sure I had your district right, see if you did Liz or Elizabeth on the state website, and when we go to your profile, you see bills.
Lots of them.
Wait. I was just saying in general, not yours. Sorry.
There's 7.
I was saying in general, you know, that's what the website does. And then she said several. And so you have, and us pundits, you know, I was talking to Darren Howell the other day and he's on tomorrow.
Yes, happy birthday to Darren. And, you know, Darren has, you know, I just want to shout him out. His work in the community in SEIU with K's, also with his event. I know sadly it was canceled this year. A lot of us had challenges with the holidays, but just know that, you know, he's big up to Darren for all that he's done.
Thank you so much. We're going to kind of get into something sort of related to that in a minute, but and I lost my train of thought that quick. But what I do want to talk about, all that you've done, Rep. Miranda, we're aware, and if you talk to Russell Holmes, you know that he's talking always about vacating and making sure that seat stays Black and brown. And so I asked Nika Elugaro, who we know is running as well, about a succession plan. And have you intentionally, all that you've done to represent that district, to get that district resources, have you been intentional? And I'm not asking you if you named the heir apparent, but have you been intentional about succession? Because, you know, the Fifth Suffolk as it is right now is sort of, you know, vast, but someone that may not, it's always a risk when a seat, well, every election year, it's always a risk that someone can get elected that may not share our values. And there's a lot that, you know, leads to that. But can you talk a little bit about intentional succession to ensure that because the greatest legacy to some folks like you is not necessarily all your work, but the path that you make so your work, you know, continues. And so can you talk a little bit about legacy?
Absolutely.
Succession.
But it is legacy. And so a couple of things. I love my Fifth Suffolk community. People know me. This is my home. I was born and raised off Dudley Street, Woodward Ave in Clifton. I spent so much time on Hancock Street where my aunts lived and off Bowdoin. But I also spent a lot of time in Orchard Park Housing Development when it was called OP, you know, and I have friends and family there. And it matters so much to me, so much so that I've done 3 things that are really important. So recently, I started my first in a series of community dialogues with the residents of the Fifth Suffolk to see what I did well, what bills and things that I championed. And I just want to say something for a moment about why I care a lot about a successor that is progressive, that is community oriented, that is going to do the hard things. Because I have filed 33 bills, but I filed a lot of the hard bills, the Safe Communities Act around immigration. I have filed ending life without parole. I have elevated birthing justice, it was something that wasn't talked about. And so I want to share that it matters to me that someone goes in that seat because I've pushed the district to be more progressive, right? And so I don't want that work undone. And I want to shout out my team, Kevin, Rochelle, Mariella before them, Tammy before her. And I'm actually looking for another legislative aide. So
I saw the post.
they're not running, Kevin's just transitioning. But the deal is that we handle hundreds of constituent issues a month. And I want someone that's going to be able to say, I care about this community. I've done this work, and the work that Rep. Miranda did in reproductive justice and immigrant rights and criminal legal system, I see them as a partner. When I become the senator, the thing that is really important is you work with your reps. Every rep of color, almost, I think. I'm not sure about John right now because he lives in the South End, is a part of the Senate district, right? And so you have to be a good partner. You have to be someone that allows and gives room to your reps because they all are different. We're all different. Not every politician is the same. And that's the other thing I want to share is that I've thought a lot about succession and legacy. There have been 3 people that have contacted me about wanting this seat.
Okay.
And I think there'll be more because the 5th Suffolk is not the little district that could anymore. It's at the top of everybody's conversation because when a rep works hard and makes a difference, that means that your district is highlighted and elevated. So being the most of color, most minority, being the most Cape Verdean district in Boston and 1 or 2 in the state, because Brockton, because of housing costs, Brockton is up there with Cape Verdeans as Dorchester and Roxbury's losing a lot of Black and Black immigrant people.
Representative, we're getting down to, I know you have a 10, we're getting down to time, and I want to give you some time to breathe. You kind of talked to this a little bit, but I've asked Sonia about it when Senator Sonia Chang Diaz was on yesterday. I asked her about it. And so you've mentioned this a little bit as far as harassment and a different couple of other things. You're in Boston. And you, of course, probably were there at a couple of events, and there have been protests, and there have been some very interesting undertones to these protests. And I can say this because you endorsed, y'all are friends. Mayor Wu has been the target of some very interesting sentiments with, people have a right to protest. They can disagree and all this other stuff. You're aware of Representative Presley, and bringing it back to you have your own experience. What is it that you say to the disregard of respect for humanity, first of all, the disrespect of Black and brown people, and then the misogyny, and just so much that is being directed toward our women of color, but there's a heightened intentionality in this undercurrent directed toward Mayor Wu. What is it that you say to speak to that, to how we either help protect more? There's been, Ramilda's been very passionate about, we need to show up at these protests as well and make a stand for what we believe is right, and not stand for the disrespect. And so how do we handle that? How are you handling it?
So what I want to say, because I've been personally impacted, that, we often don't say this, but Black women and women of color can't be your shield and your target. Every woman of color in mass politics, particularly in Boston, has faced some type of hate, whether it's against Asian Americans, whether it's against people who are Latinx or Black. And we've gone through a lot. We've been disrespected through name calling. We've been over criminalized, over sexualized. And we are doing this while we're still doing the work of leadership, right? And I can just say that there's a thin line between free speech and harassment and stalking and abuse. And for a long time in Massachusetts, and I think in Boston, we allowed these things to happen because dominant culture and politics didn't have representation. But now it does, with 2008 starting with Representative Presley, And now the city council is a majority women of color. We have our first Muslim and first Cape Verdean woman in Tanya Fernandez Anderson. We have our first Haitian American with Ruthie Lujen. Both of them are great friends of mine. I've known them my whole lives. And what is happening is not fair, because you can disagree with someone politically. You can also call into question their work. But once you cross the line to bring it to their home, to their family, and make them feel fear, that is where it stops. You know, people don't realize why we have fear when these things happen. People say, well, they're just words. Stay strong, keep your head high, keep your shoulders back. But these things, we're human. We have a shared humanity. And I'm really thankful that you shared that because when they come for one of us, they come for all of us. And we got to stop creating silos, being like, well, that person isn't my friend, so I don't care. Or that person isn't my race. Or that person isn't my religion. Our destinies are all tied. When they have sexism and racism and Islamophobia, they're coming for all of us because they're saying that the dominant culture, white supremacy,
sorry, go ahead.
White supremacy and white superiority reign. And it's not that case. Boston is a majority minority city. But the more important thing is that we need to stand up as a community. You know, one of the things that hurt me during my time of sort of going through things, because we all go through things, was that that people don't take into consideration that sometimes people snap. Sometimes people have evil intentions. And so what starts off as a word or a demeaning thing said about a person could be a bomb, could be someone causing physical harm or further emotional harm. None of us are not human. And so although Mayor Wu has been very gracious, I think I've been gracious. U.S. Attorney Rachel Rollins has been gracious. Former Mayor and always Mayor Kim Janey has been gracious. And Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley has been gracious. You know, Representative China Tyler has been gracious. We should not have to go through these things to prove our worth and our humanity, not as women and not as people of color. And I just want to spend a moment particularly on Black women, because I saw a lot of the community when the AAPI hate was happening, folks being like, well, why are they getting more attention? Or when Me Too movement started by a Black woman, that it got co-opted and kind of became a white feminist issue, is that I believe if you focus on the folks that are most disrespected, most sexualized, most criminalized, which are Black women, that you actually create a better world for all women and all non-binary people and all people, because we're the ones that are most disrespected. And I just will say, just a moment of real authenticity, that, and I'm not speaking for all women, but it really calls into question whether you want to do this work, even though you love this work and you're called to do this work, because you ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it to bring shame and stress to my family? Is it worth it to get sick? You know, I was sick last year. Black women, we hold our pain in our gut. And I had diverticulitis. I had to get fusions. I had a polyp and a cyst. You know, like these are things that real women are going through while they're going through this leadership stuff. And it has to stop. It has to stop. We have to stand up against it, because whether it's a community activist that's being harassed, whether it's a synagogue or a Black church, whether it is a Muslim, whether it is an Asian grandmother that, sadly was pushed in front of a train, those instances of hate shouldn't be tolerated. Not for one of us, not for all of us.
There's a few things there, and I'm going to get ready to let you go. And I want to intentionally end you on a good note around education. As Carlos asked the question, and I see you bubble up when you get an opportunity to teach. So a couple of things there. First thing, with all due respect, if my mother and others are on, hell effing yes, it's worth it. And I don't say that in a manner of what you said before, stay strong and keep your head up. I just need to reaffirm to you that when you can keep your head up and stay strong, it is worth it. When you can't, we need to do better generally as the community and then as Black men, because I wouldn't be my authentic self and not name the fact that some of that suffering has come at the hand from folks that look and carry the same appendage as I do. You know what I mean by that. And so
and James, one thing that's really important is Black men get abused too.
That's real.
And Black men, more often than not, are also penalized and scrutinized by all levels of government and the legal system, because we see them, people don't see their humanity, and I just wanted to call that out because I've seen it time and time again in our community that people get abused of all genders, particularly, and I want to say that Black trans women, folks that are differently abled, folks that are immigrant that can't speak English as good as people. Those are the people that are sort of more abused. But I think that we all can tie our destinies better and start working collectively to end the hate across all. Because I welcome scrutiny on my legislation or how I proceed as a representative and senator. And that's the reason why I apologized earlier, because although those things were 10 to 12 years ago, I might have caused harm. And if I did, which I think I might have and did, it's important for me to say that I don't engage in that way and I've risen above that and I'm sorry. And that's what leaders should do more. Leaders gotta say more. And I just see a question by Carlos. And if
we're going to go there. I'm just queuing it because you stay right there where you are, because this is the posture in which, Representative, we need all public servants, activists, and advocates to exude, because it finish that and then we'll go into Carlos's question so I can allow you to end on a happy note where you can educate the people. But
I think we should answer his question and then I can end.
Okay. Yep.
There's a lot of education that needs to happen. There's 7,000 bills about each year that get filed by the 200 reps and senators. There are 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, and they're all very different. And when you get in the House chamber in particular, I like to say to people, we think Massachusetts is very liberal, but it's not. When I was doing police accountability work, I knew two things to be true. I knew that there's a movement for abolition. So there are people who just want to dismantle the entire system because it is racist and it is founded in safe patrols, and continuously Black people are suffering. We didn't have to watch the movie 13th, but the movie 13th, Trial 4, the movie about the exonerated 5, all of that taught us about the criminal legal system and what it does to Black people, particularly Black men. On the other side are folks who live in towns and cities that police don't engage in the same way that they've engaged with me. I was 9 years old when an officer said to shut up. I was 17 years old coming from college, seeing an officer post up a bunch of my friends on a stoop and told me, unless I wanted to go to jail, I needed to shut the F up and get in my yard. And I was like, that's illegal. You're taking pictures of their IDs, because I knew that wasn't right. And where were those IDs going to end up? Right? In a book at the station where someone could self-identify someone that's done nothing. And so we've come a long way, but the reason why I focused on policing and I wrote the use of force guidelines, even as a freshman legislator for the Black and Latino caucus, and named it an act to save Black lives, is because forever in the history of Massachusetts, in the journal of legislation, there's going to be a bill called an act to save Black lives. And I wanted to end no-knock warrants and chokeholds and create de-escalation and make it illegal for an officer to sit there, like in the George Floyd situation, and watch one officer kill somebody and not do anything about that. We've got to stop. 1,000 people a year die at the hands of police. And here, I want to say this because I have a lot of friends who are in law enforcement. This is not an attack on people who go to their work and give their all and help community. But there's more than just a few bad apples.
There is. And Rep, I want it because you talked about the accomplishment, and I'm not aware of all that went from proposal to actually passing, but I want you to concentrate as we get ready to
Yeah.
close out on how we get it. You propose it. What do you need from us? What is the process? Is it calling? Is it emailing? Is it, in COVID, showing up? What are 3 things that we can do to help you as a rep and other legislators and whatnot, black and brown, valued legislation? How do we get it across the line to become actual signed legislation, law, and policy?
I think there's 3 important things. And it's not about how people can help us. I think it's how we can do a better job to help our communities, right? And Carlos and I were both in DSNI's resident leadership trainings when we were younger. We both were on DSNI's board, and he's my predecessor's predecessor in this seat. And want to acknowledge that because he did a great job.
Yep.
The thing that's important is that we have to continuously create opportunities for folks to be educated. Former counselor Andrea Campbell, she had a civic institute. We need to do more of that. We need to teach our community what are bills? How do we create policy change? How do you lobby? How do you call the state house? And this is a really important thing. So that's the first thing. With 351 cities and towns, with 200 reps and senators, we need people to call, email, text, inbox, tweet from all over the state. And so often when there's an issue like police reform or the criminal legal system, people go to the Black elected, right? Instead of their elected. And we need to work in partnership. You need to call the Stoughton, Randolph, Brockton, Springfield, Lawrence, Taunton, New Bedford, Fall River. These are the cities and towns that people have called me. And I love to connect them with their electeds, and then I help and support. But the idea is that we need to be more vocal. People are elected to serve you.
And on that point, Rep, and not directed towards you at all, but do you agree with a lot of that engagement and knowledge base comes from aggressive, intentional promotion and outreach from those that you and your peers? And generally speaking, it would just be great to know that in 2022 that generally of the whole cadre of the Black and Brown delegation in Boston improve that. I'll frame it like that.
And we have 16 members right now in the Black, or 15 members in the Black and Latino caucus. There are now 25 majority minority districts when there were 20, and only 10 of them had a Black or Latino person representing those districts. We have the juice, and I just want to end by saying a few things. I'm running to be the next senator of the Second Suffolk District because I'm ready. I'm experienced. I've delivered. I have a lived experience that understands, and I've worked on the hard things, and I'll continue to do that. I always bring my people to the State House and done that in the last 3 years, and I'll continue to do that because government shouldn't be here and the people be here. We need to be more connected because we need more resources. We've never gotten our fair share from the state budget. We need more legislation passed. We don't have time to wait, and we need to respond. Yeah, you do. Domingos, you're right. Text people back. Call people back, email people back. And, I know for me, I get about 100 emails a day. I get inboxes, and I can't respond to every text and every inbox daily. But I know my team is working hard to sift through that. And there are 3 of us trying to handle a district that has a lot of challenges. At the unemployment height, we were doing about 100 unemployment claims a day. And not just from people who lived in Roxbury and Dorchester, people who lived in all those cities that I mentioned. The third thing I want to share, besides being more vocal, being more engaged, being more communicative, is that we have to get to the point that we're educating continuously. And it needs to be in different languages. It also needs to be taken down from this high road of policy and taken down, when they say you explain it to a 5th grader.
Layman's terms.
It needs to be in our schools. It needs to be in our community centers. We need to be teaching folks and with folks being like, you have an elected mayor. This is how you go to a city councilor. This is what a city councilor does. This is what a rep and senator does. And I'll just end by saying, I do a lot of city council stuff, And now I'm super excited that there have been people elected. Shout out to Brian Worrell, Tanya Fernandez Anderson, Julia Mejia, and Rutsui Lujan. These are all people that Kendra Lara.
Yeah, I was going to say Kendra. Yep.
You know, all these folks represent their communities and represent the city in a way that I think under Wu's administration, and all the chiefs that she's hired, I'm so impressed and so excited that I think City Hall will operate better. And as City Hall operates better and handles the pothole or the light or the other 311 issue, as a rep, I can continuously work on the legislation and the budget priorities that my district deserves.
I agree, Rep. And I thank you so much. And thank you for that point. And we'll end with this because you got 2 minutes, but this is a national issue. But just real quickly, your thoughts on this. It didn't pass. Rep Presley put a statement out as well. And so the voting rights bill is it didn't pass last night, but they'll come up with a different strategy. Your thoughts on that?
The voting rights bill must pass. It is quintessential to our democracy that the right to vote and participate in this democracy is not only elevated, but protected. And this is not just about the civil rights movement. I think a lot of folks think about John Lewis and think about Dr. King, and they think about the fight, which is important. But this is 2022. And the fact that in our federal government, that they didn't see this as a priority, and the Senate and the senators who are elected by their constituencies are down there playing a game with Black people and Indigenous people and immigrant people's lives like this is just unconscionable. And I just want to shout out Rep Presley because her policy game is on fleek. Her team is on fleek. Like, she has, for policies, been a stalwart and steadfast champion for us. But we also need to call Markey. We got to call Warren and say to them, we care about the Voting Rights Act, and you guys got to help usher it through. We don't have an issue in Massachusetts because all of our champions, most in the most part, who are in Congress, who are in the Senate, are fighting for those rights. But we need a storm across the country. Stacey Abrams, when she lost the governorship, spent the last 2 years working on voting rights and expanding the right to vote in the state of Georgia. We can do that. There's an organization called Black Voters Matter. Support their work. Support Rep Presley. Send an email, call her, say thank you for doing this. But this is one of the civil rights issues of our time, the Voting Rights Act and ending mass incarceration, which is a personal fight for me, and I know a personal fight for Rep Presley, is that we can't keep allowing this country and our individual states and our individual counties to lock up the promise and potential of our communities. It's racist, it's illegal, and it has deep roots in the founding of this country that has to be dismantled. So thank you all for listening to me here today. And if you want to reach out, please, my email is liz.miranda@mahouse.gov. I welcome any emails, positive, or those that are pushing me.
So let's pushing you. I was going to say, don't you say negative ones, don't you dare.
I get emails like that, and it's really great to actually
push, yes, but not
don't harass me. But like I welcome someone saying, and I get those bills. I have Life Without Parole, the Safe Communities Act. I get emails every day saying they're anti-illegal aliens, which is so racist and disrespectful, or they're anti freeing people from the jails, which Life Without Parole isn't. It's just requiring that people get life with parole review after 25 years. And I think people deserve the right to redemption. And my last word for today is that I hope that you'll look at my run at lizmiranda.com, that you will call and have conversations with me about why I believe I am a great champion for our community and will be for the Second Suffolk.
Thank you so much. I just want to clarify. So issues that have to do with the state, email her here. Campaign. And as I've said, when other candidates are on or whatever, you want to get a good baptism about what goes on in politics in Boston, find a candidate in which you share their values and go volunteer and get involved, because you will get an understanding of the electoral politics here in Boston. And so also, if you want to contact Liz Miranda on the campaign end, you can also email her here at lizmiranda@gmail.com. So let's get it right. Political campaign, website, email. To contact her at the state for a district issue or just to check in with her about her bills and how we can support getting them across the line. Carlos, great question. Email her there. And I just wanted to say shout out to the team, Kevin, everybody else. You've got so much love. Go back, and you usually do. I get notifications when you start responding to the comments. But thank you so much, Rep. Stay covered, stay prayerful. And we look forward to hearing from you. And then at some point, and I'll let the other rep know, I want to get you and Rep Elgaro and whoever. I'm hearing some other names might possibly throw their hand in the hat. But thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. God bless you.
Take care, everyone. Have a good day.
Hey, everybody. That was definitely an awesome interview with our state representative, Elizabeth Miranda. Just very quickly, because it is 9:58, I just want to make you guys aware of a couple of things. We have had awesome content all week, and we are continuing with that content on tomorrow. For those of you that are familiar with the Java Cafe, Darren Howell, who is someone who's a political pundit, selfless community leader, he's coming in for Freestyle Fridays tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We're going to talk about the landscape of electoral. The process has started in Boston and Massachusetts. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some hood stuff. We're just going to have a freestyle conversation. Then on Monday, she has not been in a cafe for a few weeks, post the holidays, but Dr. Brandy Brooks is coming back, and we have a wonderful slate of mental health conversations, some action items. Y'all are going to get homework and be asked to talk about some action items right here in the Java Cafe Live, to put them in the comments. And so that's starting on Monday, the 24th at 9 a.m. Then on Tuesday, for Testimony Tuesdays, we have a young man that was very instrumental in informing and educating us when we had the DA's race in 2018. He did go work in the DA's office. He is no longer there during the transition. I'm hearing a few things, but we're going to talk with Attorney Constantino on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, as you all know, the sheriff's office, and I've said in a post earlier this morning, Black and Brown Boston and residents of Black and Brown residents of Boston and Massachusetts, pay attention. The electoral season has started, and folks are making moves and decisions, launching campaigns, and doing everything that they're doing. Stay attentive and stay informed. And so the current incumbent sheriff is coming to be with us next Wednesday, the 26th at 9 a.m. And then on Thursday, he's in the room this morning. I have the pleasure and opportunity. We're going to talk about a couple of the issues that State Representative Miranda raised, but we're going to talk with Quincy Roberts, who is no stranger to the Java Cafe. Drink your water. He's going to come and talk about Beyond Pride and some of the work that he's doing and some social media efforts that he's worked on with some local members of the LGBTQI plus community here in Boston. And so that's all the content that we have prepared for you from tomorrow until next Thursday. I'm in the process now of trying to get one of our candidates that's running for the Secretary of State position to come in and close us out next week. And so I'm waiting to hear about that. And we're already planning into the first week of February. Black Mental Wealth is returning on the 31st at 1 p.m. With Joseph Gilmore from the Cannabis Fund. And then on February 1st, in her first interview as the newly appointed Chief of Community Engagement, Brianna Millar will be with us on February 1st to kick off, February 2nd to kick off Black History Month. February 1st is Your Healthy Java. And so we're going to do something with staying sexually safe, because Valentine's Day is coming and our next Healthy Java is after Valentine's Day. But we're also going to talk some Black history on February 1st. On the 2nd, Chief Millar. And I believe that is it. The final thing I will mention to you, and I've talked about it a few times, and Props, who was on, he's going to help me get a link up where you all can go and purchase these. But there is merch available, and a few people have inboxed and reached out, and the way for you to get it is coming. We're just working on some things with the website and the commerce page on the website, but more information is coming. But we just want to put this before you that red and black Java with Jimmy Double J hoodies are available for $44.99. And also the Java with Jimmy mug is available. We are doing a special one with some chocolate and stuff for you for Valentine's Day. And please remember, these prices are only good until January 31st, 2022. And in the words of Fat Joe, on February 1st. Yesterday's price is not today's price. I'm messing. The last thing I wanted to share is I put a post up a few weeks ago stating that we would not gather together for a live Java Cafe in January. I just can't. As someone who promotes safety and things like that, we are going to have a virtual Saturday Java Cafe. I have worked with Daryl's Corner Bar and Grill, and also the Underground. And so what you're going to be able to do, the information will be out soon, is you'll have to order by a certain time to have it for the show. You will be able to order a Java pack via Uber Eats in order to get your box and special Java with Jimmy curated goodies for the 29th of January. So more information is coming out about that. I need to hustle and get that together for next week. Okay, so we'll have a flyer out about that. I believe that is it for me, everybody. Let's go back and check the comments. Belinda, I thank you so much for the support. Belinda, y'all, we're going to have to talk about this Cash App because the IRS is there. We'll what you call it? We'll figure that out. All right, I'm getting ready to go. Kevin, thank you so much for the week. Congratulations to you and your movement and still helping support the representative. And thank you, Kevin, for all that you do in connecting us and being a legislative aide and connecting and all that stuff. We really appreciate you, sir. Kyron, I hope he's still on. What's up, brother? Good to see you in the room. And Belinda, we'll close with this. We can just leave this right there. I'm going to get ready to wrap up, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We will see you. Actually, there's one more thing I need to do. A few years ago, when I used to model, I was in a fashion show with a young lady who we call Love, but her name is Crystal. And her husband, the Polites, they are, I call them flipper moguls. And what they do is, Mike, what's up, brother? Good to see you in the room, sir. Auntie Connie, Aunt Java, I'm not messing with you. What they did was they're working, I think it's with I don't want to do it wrong, but I'm about to show a trailer of two wonderful people, and Love, who I've known for many years. She's a hell of a model herself. But they're doing some great things, and they're from Boston, and they're Black. And Love is a friend of mine. And so I would really like to share with you their trailer. Look out for this event that is coming very soon. We're going to go ahead and share it with you now.
On our other investments. I wanted to talk to you in regards to plans that we have for the old neighborhood. This is where it all began for my family. This is kind of what I want to focus on, starting with the land. The church house is not the only house that we own in Miranda. We own a rental, some land, and we just bought another house on a really big lot. All of these are on the same street where my mom grew up.
Even though we love flipping homes, the plan here is to build up the neighborhood and develop some more housing that we can rent out and pass on to our kids to really build true generational wealth.
This street is super important to me. My family settled here post-slavery, so like my mom's side, the Holt side came off of the Holt plantation.
Oh.
This is where they came to settle.
Wow.
It's on the street, so we've been here. That's why I said generation after generation after generation.
It always takes me higher.
Preserving the character of this neighborhood is very important. That's one of the main reasons we flip homes. And we'll take some of the profits and reinvest it back into other projects like this street.
My grandparents would be so happy to see us doing this. And one day, I can't wait to bring my mom here to see her grandchildren running around the same way I used to.
There is a Black and brown couple from Boston that's doing some great things. And so please go check out that event. We apologize for the echo. Danny, Props and I will figure that out later. I don't know what happened here. But anyway, two things. The candles are coming. I seen Rena's comment about the candles. I saw the markup for the label for the candles. We're working on the name and just description. It's just a very it's just very humbling to see some of the things that are evolving in the Java Cafe. And so I really appreciate all of you for the support. But one of the things that I've been talking about the past few weeks is a new platform. Props has worked very hard to ensure that we kind of upgrade the presentation here. And unfortunately, excuse me, one of the plugins with the software that we purchased is no longer available. And so they're upgrading the software, and that won't be for about the next, they said 5 weeks. And so we're going to have to delay the upgrade to about, I'll say about 6 or 7 weeks, as far as the different format in which we'll cast the Java with Jimmy show. And I believe that is it. I'll check with Belinda, to your point. And then I'm really getting off of here. There is no anniversary party. However, I have mentioned to the team, and I need to get them together because we have 60 days to plan it. I am doing something called the Red Cup Awards. I wanted to do it in 2021. Things didn't work out. And so we're doing that this year. We are dedicating one Red Cup Award to David Hart, the humanitarian award. The other award will be dedicated and on behalf of Katrina Uber Clark. That is the award for, I got to talk to her daughter because I can't remember what I told her the award is going to be for. And then also Naraki, I won't forget you on both things. And the other award, and I have to check with his wife to just make sure I get sign off, but I want to name one of the awards after Bishop Bernard and Bragg. And so that is going to take place around March 24th. A lot of it is contingent upon what's going on with COVID. You know what I mean? And so I need to make a decision and start planning. But Belinda, thank you for that. All right. It's 10:09. I actually think I got to, I hope I didn't have a 10 o'clock meeting. I'm getting ready to get off of here for sure, everyone. And I am getting a phone call at 10:30. All right. So I'm getting off of here. I appreciate each and every one of you. We are growing as a family. We are growing as a brand. And so I appreciate every one of you. We're going to get off of here and talk to you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. for early Freestyle Fridays with Darren Howell. You definitely, you don't want to miss this one. This is going to be awesome. And don't forget our merch. You will be able to go to the page probably by end of day, Knowing Props. Click a link and be able to purchase these items. Right now, they're available for pickup. If you're in Boston, they're available for pickup. If you're not in Boston, email me at info@javawithjimmy.com and we will get them mailed to you. And Pastor Marion, I know your mug. I need to get you your mug. I probably just need to get and drop it off to you. All right, guys, this is definitely it for me for real this time. Have a wonderful day. I appreciate every one of you. And remember to stay thankful, not just on Thankful Thursdays, but just be thankful, period. Peace, everybody.